Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel, or welcome to my YouTube channel. If you're new here, my name is Jess, and today I'm going to be showing you how I made these adorable charms out of polymer clay. So the tutorial only technically features this charm here, but the first one can be made using the same principles easily. So first you're going to start with your cake color and your icing color. I'm using this purple for the icing, and I'm going to start with this tan for my cake color. You can use any color you want. You can use red, brown, or literally any color, whatever. Roll it out. I'm going to roll this one thicker than the purple one because this is for the cake. Now I'm just going to roll out the purple one, and I roll this one out thinner. Now I'm just going to take my blade, and I'm cutting these into a square slices, and I'm going to do 3 slices of the cake and 2 of the frosting, and then I'm going to lay them together alternating. But you can do however many layers you want, and you can also do any different shape. You can use like a circle cookie cutter or whatever you have. So I just cut a square with my blade, and then I used that as a guide for the rest of them. I personally liked the circle shape better than I did on the bear one, but again, this is your own choice. And then I just used the blade to trim it up. Now I'm just placing it on the top of a paint bottle. You can use anything. I just thought this was easier for texturing, and then I use this kind of prickly tool, I don't know, to kind of scratch up the clay. This is just to get me started, and then I use a needle to kind of swirl the clay around and make it look like a cake. This is a very fine needle, and it even has a handle. You can use a thicker one too, doesn't matter. And this is from a needle felting kit, I believe. But basically, I'm just swirling it around, and there's no particular way that I do this. So yeah, the scratchy step in the beginning, the scratchy tool isn't necessary. I think it just kind of helps me. You can use like a toothbrush instead or something, just kind of give it some texture to start with. And then I'm just texturing all the cake parts. Now repeat on all sides. Is it just me, or are time lapses of texturing cake slices like this super satisfying? Maybe it's just me. But anyway, I don't think I made this clear before, but I'm using the paint bottle not for any painting purposes yet, but just to make it a little bit easier so that I don't really deform the cake slice as much. And I just kind of gently hold it on there with my finger. I don't know. I think it just gives me better leverage. Now I'm just taking a dotting tool to kind of smooth out the frosting and also remove some of the crumbs that may have gotten swept onto it or fallen onto it. And this also kind of gives it a slight texture. It's not really the main reason I do it. It's just kind of to smooth it out. And you can even it out a little bit. Like you can push it upwards or downwards if there's too much or too little of it. But yeah, now I'm going to use a dotting tool to make the eyes. I think I put these a little bit too low. But yeah, now I'm going to use a toothbrush, and this kind of ruins the texture I did earlier, so then I'm going to retexture it again, but just kind of fiddle with it until you're happy with how the texturing looks. This can be a little time consuming, so just sit back and relax, listen to a podcast and texture away, but the more time you spend on it, the better the results will be. And if the bottom of the cake, you want that to be textured, just use a toothbrush, and then I took a light brown chalk pastel and used a paintbrush to kind of brush that on the bottom. You don't need to do this on the top because you're going to put frosting there. And then I also dusted some on the middle of the cake. It's supposed to be like the caramelization, but I did think this clay was a little bit too like pale, so I wanted to give the cake a little more color. So here's it after I've finished all my texturing. And now I'm going to take some translucent liquid Sculpey. You can also use Sculpey Bacon Bond. They are practically the same thing. And I just squeeze them out. And then I'm going to try and match the color of clay that I used for the frosting in the middle. So we're just going to use some of that translucent liquid Sculpey. I personally should have added some clay to it, like really softened clay just a little bit to make it a little bit thicker, because I was just lazy, honestly, but you should probably add a little bit of clay into it so it's thick, because this was too thin, and as it was dripping off the edges of the cake, because it was like a harsh edge, like a crisp edge, it kind of like dripped too far, and it got too thin in places. So I had to bake it right away before the edges were like exposed completely. But I just dolloped it onto the cake and spread it around. Made some drips with my needle tool. So you could leave it like this. You don't need to add any animal ears or anything. But I'm going to take a piece of clay. And sorry for the lighting change in this. It's not for the rest of the video. It's just for these next 2 clips, I promise. I don't know why it's like this. But I'm just basically rolling a ball. And then I'm going to pinch one end after I kind of flatten it out. Make a teardrop. And then I took this flat blade. It's not sharp at all. Don't worry. And I just kind of used that to make a triangle indentation in it. And that's what the finished ear looked like. This is, I guess, a cat or something. I don't know. I was going to do a unicorn, but then I didn't know how I was going to do the horn. But I think it still looks cute. I personally like the bear design better, but it's fine. Now I'm just using my dotting tool to kind of fix them into place. After baking, it'll be completely solid because it's in the translucent liquid clay, which will hold it in place, but it's just slipping around a little bit now that it's still all wet. Now I'm going to use some glitters. I have a gold, a magenta, and a blue that I'm just going to sprinkle on top. I didn't do a very good job sprinkling it. It was a bit patchy, like there would be a lot in some areas, and then not that much in others, but I still think it turned out pretty. Whoops, that was a little too much there. And then I just tried to use a needle tool to drag it around a little bit because I had put too much, as I said. Oopsie. If you want to be more particular about it, you can use a needle tool and kind of place on each one individually, but anyway, now I'm just trimming off a bit of wire, and I'm sticking this in as an eye pen, which I will change later. But for now, it's just a piece of wire, and this will also help me hold it when I'm glazing. You could also put in some small balls of clay into the eye sockets now, but I'm just going to paint it in after. You can see the face I have on this one, and then the mouth and stuff too, but I'm just going to paint on a smile afterwards. Now I'm going to bake it in my oven. Bake according to your package instructions and then let them cool. This is them once they've cooled. If you're wondering for the sprinkles on top of the bear cake, I baked small cylinders of polymer clay and then chopped them up to make sprinkles. And then I used a needle tool and dotting tools to make this face. You can see I did a smile for that one and then a nose kind of animal smile on the bear. Now I'm going to use my Duraclear gloss varnish to give these a nice finish. I do 2 to 3 coats, mainly 2 for the most part. And I just use a bit of parchment paper, which I reused after baking. And I'm holding onto the eye pin that I put in the bear cake with some jewelry pliers and just applying it with a small brush. This one was actually a little too small. It took a while, but yeah. So here is the finished results. I love how glittery this one is. Even though I love the bear one a little bit better, I still think they're both super cute. And that is it for this tutorial. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please remember to give it a big thumbs up. It would mean a lot to me. And subscribe and hit the notification bell if you want to know when my next video comes out. I post every Sunday, and I will see you guys later. Bye-bye.